What up, guys? That Comic Awesome here doing another review, doing Venomized number 5, and this is the epic conclusion. And it being billed as epic conclusion, I have to say, I was a little disappointed. So, thus far, anybody following along from Venomverse, or even the beginning of this, there are creatures called poisons. They feed off of hosts that have bonded with the symbiotes. They enhance them and join them into a psychic hive mind that only goal is to expand their numbers and become kind of higher on the food chain, because poisons by themselves are very weak and don't have any real strengths. But when they bond with a symbiote host, then they kind of enhance that host's abilities and also kind of keep their traits, but it absorbs the human or the creature inside. So it was kind of leading up to something really, to me, that could have been good. But this being billed as like Venomized, it has Venom on the cover, really throughout this whole series, Venom really played a back seat, and I think that's what bothered me. I made a comment on Twitter earlier today. He played the part of like conscientious objector. When Spider-Man was like, we gotta kill all the symbiotes, we'll use Flash's anti-venom touch, and we'll destroy them all. And Venom's like, look, these are living things. Also, you'd essentially be committing genocide against these creatures, which is right. I mean, he's not wrong, but that's about the only real input Venom has in this, which it was billed, and I'd have to dig up the advertisements from somewhere back, a couple months ago. But Venomized was billed as like, the earth is poisoned and venom is the cure. Which, even when I read that back a couple months ago, I thought to myself, I'm like, Venom is weak against the poisons. If anybody would be the cure, it would be anti-venom and Flash Thompson. And after reading this, I kind of wish they would have gone that route. Now, that being said, Flash Thompson as anti-venom has kind of been a little bit of a two-dimensional character. That's not saying Flash is a two-dimensional character, just the way they're portraying him right now is very kind of two-dimensional. I think this would have been a really good arc to put him front and center and give him some really big depth in his new role of kind of like anti-venom, healer, destroyer kind of character. But what you get is more of honestly a continuation and conclusion to what the Poison X saga was, which wasn't bad for X-Men Blue and Venom, but more heavy into the X-Men. Also, once I kind of go through my review, there's a lot of questions this leaves, but let's get started. So you start off with Kid Kaiju is kind of what they call an anomaly, and an anomaly is the only thing I can think is to be what they label an anomaly is a strength against the poisons. So Carnage was an anomaly. Because he was so twisted, he was able to kind of hurt the poisons in Venomverse. Kid Kaiju is another anomaly. His monsters are able to hurt the poisons. So they want to bond with Kid Kaiju, because then his monsters will fight for them. Well, what they do is they end up turning one of his monsters against him by combining with a symbiote and then becoming a poison. And I really do like the poison design. It's very, reminds me not of like a Punisher type esque, but I'm trying to remember, like almost like like a manga style or like anime style. Bleach. That's what I'm thinking. Very Bleach esque with the masks, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. So, Scrags is becomes a poison, and Flash has to make a kind of hard call here because he already said that he's not going to use his abilities against the poisons because there are living people. He says there's living people in there. He used it on a Punisher, not this universe's Punisher. It was another universe's Punisher that had been captured by the poison, and it literally just exploded and screamed, and it kind of traumatized him a little bit. He's like, I murdered somebody today, and I don't want to do that anymore. Which makes sense. Who would want to do that? But when there's a gigantic monster, you kind of have to make the tough call. So then you get the flip side, which is the X-Men and Venom side, which I don't remember why Daredevil is here. He doesn't do anything remotely. I don't even think he says one line in this whole book, but they bill him right here like he's, has a purpose, but I don't know. Maybe they just needed a character to kind of fill it out and make it even. But they're essentially following a psychic link to Jean, who is now a poison. And, Venom's pretty much like, this is a trap. They're luring us in. And, Cyclops is like, even if it is a trap, we have to go. Which, is kind of noble. So they're met with Carnage, who had been abducted by the poison. And what I like, too, is the poisons have pretty much stated that when they bind with somebody, they absorb that person and bring them into the hive. Well, in Venomverse, we saw that Deadpool was able to kind of break that. He was able to deter himself from the hive. Carnage the same way. He doesn't care anything about growing the hive. Carnage still only cares about killing and killing as many people as possible. So that's what he's doing, and I like this too. I wish they would have gone into this more. You have Venom, a black suit Spider-Man versus like a souped up Carnage, I wish that would have gone a lot further than it did, but you kind of just get a little bit of a side battle. So Beast, Cyclops, Bloodstorm all kind of break off. Then they meet what is kind of psychic projections of, again, so Scott sees Jean, Beast sees the Demon King. I don't know who this is, but obviously it's from Bloodstorm's reality. But she's like, look, we're seeing the people that we love. And you only get a brief glimpse of like a kind of the queen. I'll say the queen poison. But yeah, so this is back to Earth where all Flash does is touch Scrags as a poison, and he just explodes. And he feels bad, but then, again, almost like a heart-wrenching thing. He says, the awful Scrags loves you. So he's like, even as he's dying, like he was taken over by the poisons, even as he was dying, he was able to kind of regain himself and, tell Kid Kaiju that he loves him. So that was sweet. I'll stop there. I don't want to go too much further because I don't want to go into spoiler territory. But let's just say there are some unanswered questions about the characters that were taken by the poisons, and what they would be now. Are they dead? They show them, spoiler, they show one panel, and then it kind of goes into an epilogue. So, to give you an example, Jimmy Hudson, who's on the he's an Wolverine's son from another dimension, who is on the X-Men Blue team, who's just starting to play a prominent role in that X-Men Blue team. And now, if I'm reading this book correctly, could be dead. But how does that play in? Again, he's just picking up. Like, is he going to be out of that series when the members of X-Men Blue that have been out in space return? How is it going to affect that? Is that going to be maybe part of a fresh start for Marvel? Who knows? Little bit of a disappointment on the climax. On the whole, too, I wish they would have either build this completely different, maybe like poisoned or something, versus Venomized, which again leads me to believe that Venom would take a front and center, but he really didn't. So that's my thoughts on that. Subscribe over here, watch some more videos, hit me up in the comments, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time.